Last week, the federal government enacted the Emergencies Act and suspended the insurance of any truckers who were involved in the blockades. Disability and injury lawyer Nainesh Kotak joins us with thoughts on this and the impacts of this. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. So this thing, of course, passed in the House of Commons along party lines, but not without significant opposition and concern among with many Canadians. What are your thoughts on the Emergencies Act? Is it overreach?
I think it is an overreach, quite frankly. This act came about in 1988. It's really an act of last resort where local laws are not working and procedures are not working. We do know that the threat needs to be, for public order emergencies. It's defined in the CSIS Act, and you really need to see subversion, foreign interference, violent threats, and threats to overthrow the government. And we saw in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Windsor, and in Toronto, where the laws of the land worked, blockades were removed and charges were laid where appropriate. The difficulty in Ottawa, obviously, is the initial allowing of 400 trucks to go in and zero enforcement for the first 2 weeks or so, and then you're going from 0 to 10, escalating to a massive enforcement using the app. My personal view is that the threshold now for using the Emergencies Act has been lowered for this government and maybe even for future governments down the road.
Now, what consequences can uninsured drivers face?
Right. So the difficulty is, number one, getting insurance again in the future is very difficult. Secondly, if you're in an accident, you're going to have really no coverage in terms of income replacement benefits. You could apply to the Motor Vehicle Accident Claims Fund for some basic therapy. And even if somebody else is at fault, you can't sue them for your pain and suffering. So there are significant consequences. Obviously, if you do drive without insurance, I would never ever recommend that. I mean, there are significant penalties up to $25,000 in fines, and obviously for big rigs, it's greater. So I think, Bob, it's a big tool the government has, and it puts people in a quagmire in terms of how this will be enforced. Is it only the vehicles who are at the scene? Is it donor vehicles? How far do you extend this? It's a very significant power. In fact,
there's one Toronto company that was actually concerned that because they had one individual parked in Ottawa, it could impact the entire fleet insurance.
This is true, and and the same goes to freezing of bank accounts. For if it's a business, if you have an employee who donated, could your business account be frozen? And we've seen, I think, recently a farmer out in Saskatchewan did a $500 donation, and his account was frozen. So we got to be so careful in a free and democratic society. And we do know, look, I mean, it was horrific for the citizens of Ottawa, for the residents of Ottawa. Something had to be done. My view is that law enforcement itself, which ultimately was used, is the tool, and not go and overreach in terms of the removal of significant rights and consequences that are really difficult to fathom down the road.
Yeah, Nainesh, to your earlier point, we have less than 30 seconds left, but the lack of a policy if insurance is canceled, isn't this legislation actually hurting victims?
Yes, the only thing is, let's say you have insurance and someone doesn't, and they cause your accident. You would sue your own insurance company in their place, and your insurance company would then go after the offending driver personally, and that could have significant consequences in terms of revocation of the license, etc.
Okay, wish we had more time, but we're going to link up your website at chch.com, and we appreciate your regular visits. Nainesh Kotak from Kotak Law. Have a great day.
Thank you.